Welcome to From Here, where we discuss what it really takes to lead a great life and a great business, one conversation at a time. I'm Vanessa Hogan, broker owner of Century 21 United Realty. This podcast isn't just about real estate, it's about drive, discipline, and the people behind the success stories, from entrepreneurs and innovators to community leaders. I sit down with people I admire to talk about work ethic, business tactics, decision making, and how they're making impact in their own way. Let's get into it. Hi there, Vanessa Hogan. This is the From Here Podcast, and I'm very excited today to have Kathleen Black with me. Kathleen Black is the CEO of North America's leading performance-based team and holistic leadership company. Recognized as the top female-founded one-on-one coaching company and top team-specific coaching company nationally in the real estate industry. Her client network generates billions in additional sales annually, surpassing $30 billion in the last decade, with 80% of clients being top 1% producers. A two-time best-selling author of The Top 1% Life and Relentless to Rise, Kathleen's life story inspired the two-time Emmy-nominated documentary The Relentless One. She is an award-winning keynote speaker, transformational coach, and trusted partner to iconic global brands renowned for helping leaders shift from chaos to calm while unlocking elite performance and freedom. Kathleen lives in Oshawa, Canada, with her two children, Ethan and Ella, and her love, Jane. Another connection is your nanny has a canoe at the Canoe Museum.
Yeah, which was so cute because for me, it was such an honor because you did your Ascend conference there.
Yes.
And I started to look into it. I was like, wait a minute, didn't my nanny donate a canoe at that exact Canoe Museum? But because I think it's newer, I had never been there. So it was so special for me to be able to kind of bring in a bit of her story because we grew up going to Chemung Lake and she lived on Weller Avenue and, you know, she's been here, her family, many generations. Yeah. So it was really fun to draw that in.
Yeah, very cool history to have you as the keynote speaker and have that connection. So
yeah, it's fun.
Yeah. So I wanted to talk to you about your real estate career, which preceded your coaching career, of course. Mm-hmm. And it is amazing to me that you achieved top 1% status in Durham and the GTA. So what was it that you were doing to get to that level?
Well, I would say working really hard, but I was, necessity because I got into real estate, as many people do. I always say a lot of people end up in real estate. Some people have it as their childhood dream, but a lot of people end up in real estate. And I was working on building investment portfolio with my then husband, now ex-husband. And we were in the film district, in the beaches, and really doing the Burr effect, but I had no idea what the Burr effect was, right? Mm-hmm. So renovating, getting at least one unit done, living in it, finishing the rest, move on, refinance, move on to the next. Luckily, then everything cash flowed positive. So it was a nice time in life. But there was a lot of looking at properties, assessing the cap rate, assessing the return. And I was really starting to micromanage our realtor. He was lovely, but when it came to kind of maneuvering the investment aspect, maybe not as strong. So I eventually begrudgingly got my license. And I always say to people, it's funny to say that to other people in real estate because at the time, you have to remember, I had two little kids and I'm a landlord and a property manager and somehow I'm a contractor, which nobody should let me do. Mm-hmm. And I'm, doing all this other stuff. So I got my license thinking we'd build our portfolio, but pretty quickly I wanted to get more experience. So I ended up to choose to go into a team. I had a spreadsheet with all the brokerages, teams, all the options. Like, hey, it all comes out pretty close to the same, by the way. But I wanted to learn. For me, it was like, if you're going to pay me to learn at a higher level, I want to do that. And it put some strain on family life, which I coach a lot of, I would say, very powerful women. And I have a lot of respect for them. And I know it's not that uncommon that you can have a change in your career and it really changes the dynamics at home. And unfortunately, it led to dynamics that just weren't good for me. So I found myself at the start of a 5-year separation. Our properties were starting to be frozen. Eventually, judges ordered us to sell some of them, which was very painful because a year after they had doubled. Like we just missed the market, but such is life. Yeah. So I had to make some decisions, go back to managing dental offices and be 9 to 5, be more secure with the kids. And everyone around me is like, that's the right choice. Like, go right with everything you have. But when I looked left, I was like, yeah, it's unstable. I mean, real estate's very demanding. It's one of the most competitive industries in the world. And Toronto Regional Real Estate Board is the biggest board in the world. We have the most competition, if you're part of that board overall. But you have the ability to bet on yourself and invest in yourself. And I think looking back then, I really wanted to have some autonomy. I wanted to be able to support my kids and, make something that I'd be proud of and show them a great example. So I went into real estate with everything I had. Some of it was messy, as it is, with 2 little kids in tow. But at the end of the first year, I'd sold 44 homes. The end of the second year, I don't remember actually if I was 50, 55, but then I quickly went up to 65, 70, and then got into coaching. And I had a couple of years where I did both. I call them pinch years, where you basically are like a startup and all you do is work. But at the end of the 2 years, I went fully into coaching and kind of never looked back.
Yeah. Incredibly brave to do what you did.
Looking back, yes, but then it didn't feel that way. Looking back, like, who did you think, like, what did you think you were doing, you know?
You knew deep down.
I must have.
Yeah. Amazing. So what do you find, let's fast forward to today. What makes somebody reach out for coaching? I know it could be a million things, but is there like a common theme that you see?
Sometimes. I think, when you look at whether it's a buyer or seller or it's a realtor or team leader, they say 80 to 90% of our population are what's called away from motivated. So, we know this in real estate of like, why do you want to move? Oh, I hate my neighbor. They're blasting music all night long. Like, I don't want to talk to them. I'm avoiding them. It's so uncomfortable. I want to leave. Or I don't like all the snow. The city doesn't do the snow. I do the whole boulevard, right? Like, that's away from motivated. So it means I want to make a change because I'm trying to get away from something I don't like. And whether that's a buyer or seller, they're going to hire us because we prevent risk for them, right? We make it feel more safe for them to avoid what they don't want. It's only 10 to 20, depending on the research, of the population that are toward, which means 10 to 20% of the time we get to work with people who are like, I want to hire you because I think you're better. You're going to have better results, right? Like, I'm going to be able to improve my livelihood. I'm actually doing a move up move and I'm super excited about it for only that reason. So with that in mind, marketing and coaching, the really successful marketing will always cater to people's pains and their weakness. I'm not as good at that. So over time, we've really attracted more of those towards mindset high achievers. And I think that's why our community is the way it is. That being said, people come in because they have a team that's maybe not producing. They're married to the other team leader and they're going through divorce and they're trying to unpack that. It's a multi-legacy business. We have a lot of that where it's, father, son, that it's multi-generational, the business, and they're trying to navigate that side. In the last 2 to 3 years, we've seen more traditional businesses get hit by the shifts in market. So they've come and said, I'm watching I've always been a repeat and referral agent, but a couple of years ago, I just thought it was a fluke, it was a little bit less. And then last year they're like, oh, it's happening again. This year there was a bit more panic. And I think that panic was a gift because it caused people to finally make some changes, right? So that's been a different change in the last couple of years. People who really didn't necessarily want a very systematic business, but realized the market's changed and they need to do some different things to nurture that community. Still repeat and referral, but just a different approach.
So these are new coaching clients you're referring to when you say that this market kind of pushes them in. And it's a fine line, right? Because it is a tougher market. The last couple of years have been more difficult and you're trying to be tight with your spending, but it makes sense even more so, I guess, in these times to hire a coach, right?
Well, for sure. Like, I talked to somebody just yesterday, and when he was telling me he has an ISA, his wife is listing agent, he does a lot of ops, and then a brother is a sales agent. And when he started to get into the conversion and like what was happening right away, I'm like, you are leaving so much money on the table. It's almost unbelievable. Like, their Google and Meta just isn't converting. So when they hear what coaching is, but if they had my eyes to look at it, I'm like, you're literally leaving hundreds of thousands on the table per year based on what you're investing in versus what you're doing. Will you get there in 1 year? No, like, you need to improve it. But over the next couple of years, like, yeah, likely, or you shouldn't be investing in that source. So it's an interesting time. And we have other people who are scared to leverage, right? Like, they're doing really well, but they're burning out. They're hitting a cap.
They can't afford to get busier.
They cannot get busier. And they're really fun because typically they come in and if they're actually coachable, we get the biggest gains with them because we're like, you're so depressed in your model that if we tweak a couple of things, like, you just take off. And it's just fun, right? Because they come in all nervous and then they're like, oh, wow, I've just now hired an ops person. Like, some of of them this last year still 50% up, which it's because their business was depressed, right? Like they had opportunities there.
And is it mostly teams that you work with, or?
That's what we're known for. Like we're top team coaching in Canada. It's 17 years of full-time team coaching. And I think it's interesting because, you know, you can go in masterminds. Like we have Founders Club now that's all community based, and you can learn so much with your peers. But when it comes to building a foundation of a scalable team, there's not a lot of options that do that are going to come in and build. It's just like piece by piece by piece by piece. And it's really hard to scale without a foundation. Yeah. Right? Like you can't just throw people at it and you run out of time. So it's like, how do I manage all of this and make sure it's profitable and it's enjoyable?
Yeah. And I mean, even starting from, I had lunch with a couple of our agents today, and one of them is struggling with how to use the assistant properly. Yeah. And that's just one agent, one assistant. And you're talking about teams. I mean, it's just to build, you need to first, like you say, that's the base, I think, right? You get that admin going and then it grows from there. But it can be a struggle because you're used to just selling real estate, but you get so busy, you need the help. And then you got to figure out, okay, how do I manage this person and what should I get them to do to help me out the most? So,
and that's the biggest thing. Like because you're good at real estate doesn't mean you're great at management or training. And the number of people I've talked to have said, okay, I'm going to save the money on coaching. I'm going to hire an admin. And they call me back 6 months later because like I have the admin, I'm doing all the work with them. They're a great person, but like I can't sustain this. And I'm doing half the sales because I'm sitting there with them, right? Because they don't have like, how do you manage when you don't know what somebody's supposed to be doing, or you don't know what success looks like, and you don't know if they're the right person or not because you don't have the structure. And that's the hard part. Most people, when they hire, they actually take a hit. And sometimes people say, well, you're taking a hit because it's your first time hiring. No, you're taking a hit because you're hiring blind, without training tools, without the SOP, without knowing like a training schedule or a job description for the person. So it's tricky.
Yeah, because we watch it and it almost seems inevitable because you have to slow down a bit to train somebody, right? Yeah. But perhaps if you are more prepared when you hire that person, your downtime's a bit less.
And we train a lot of admins. So like we'll do it on coaching time, but not everyone wants to do that. But usually the first couple times they do, because then they document it, they create it, they tweak it. Now they're like, oh, I get it. I've done it a couple times. Like if our admin left, we're okay. Like we could bring in somebody else.
So you obviously aren't coaching everybody, all of your clients. You have a team of coaches. No. I understand that. And I have to say at your summit in November, I was really blown away with your coaching staff, your coaches, and the community that you mentioned that you've created there. What a network of high caliber agents, super friendly. Like it really felt like a family there, and very willing to share everything. Yeah, I really enjoyed it. So just wanted to say great job on that.
Thank you.
But it also leads me to wonder, how do you manage that team? So, you know, you started out just you coaching, you know, with that small group, and now I don't know how many coaches you have on staff, but
I'm going to think about how many well, it's actually like I did start out coaching originally, but I very quickly, like within 18 months, became director of coaching. And then I became CEO at the original company. So I always had a coaching team, but it was smaller. There were less of us, like 2 or 3 usually. Yeah. Yes, 3. But this team, ever since we opened doors, I already had other coaches, because within 3 months, like I was scared as anything starting this company. Like people are like, oh, were you excited? I'm like, no, I was terrified. Right. But within, I think 2.5 months, I was full. We had a second coach. Like they were doing pretty well. We brought in a third coach then. But over the years, I mean, we use the same systems we coach, right? So it's like we'll do extensive onboarding, you know, training. Even now we're leveling up again. So we're going to bring in coaches for, you know, level 1. They'll only be trained on level 1, have clients, and then they'll do level 2 training and testing and then move up. So there's a lot of quality control. But I also learned the hard way that trying to take 10 years of full-time team coaching and say, I'm going to prepare another coach to do all of that at the beginning, it doesn't make sense. Like I was on stage at a summit year, I don't know, it might've been 2019, 2020, I don't know. But I was on stage literally talking when it hit me, and I was saying the story, like, you know, Ford and like the assembly line. I'm like, but they were in the Depression. Like there was so much labor, like people were desperate for a job. There wasn't an appreciation of the person and their skill sets and their talent. I'm like, but what was so strong was like you had a genius area at your station. Like you knew what you were doing. And I was literally on stage because I was explaining this about real estate teams. that when you bring in a great agent, you want them to be like 80% capability at what their core needs, right? Like conversion and supporting people and representing your values and listing presentation, buyer, like all the core things, but we don't need to train them as much on all the other things. So I was sitting there on stage and I was like, that's it. So ever since then, our coaches have genius areas where I coach them at a lot higher level at our more complicated or more important systems that could go wrong, right? So like creating compensation structure for an agent, we only have one coach who does that. They're really specialized. They do it all the time. They'll still come to me if they need me for something, so we can have better quality control.
And how do you manage your team? I mean, I know you've got your systems in place. Are you guys meeting once a week, once a month? Like, what does that look like?
Yeah, we meet. I'm not always there, but we meet once a week. Like during conference season, it can be tough because I'm out and sometimes I'm doing, keynotes, or I'm in the US, or I'm in Canada. This year, budgets have slowed down a little bit in the economy and events. So we've been not slower, just a little bit different. So we have support. Like we have a success manager, Don Cox. So he'll run our senior coaches as well. Will come in and teach and kind of share like how they got where they're going. But I'm there usually minimum twice a month. So every Tuesday we meet with our entire coaching team. And if there's ever anything they need, they reach out to me or to Don Cox. So it's like, we always know what's going on with clients typically.
And do you use any tools like Slack or Asana or anything like that to manage things, projects?
Yeah, we used to use both of those. We don't anymore. Now we're on Google Chat because we moved back and we found our team didn't migrate to Slack as efficiently as we had hoped. And we weren't using it to its full extent, but they started to naturally use Google Chat, and we're Google Drive, we're G Suite based. So all of a sudden we're like, this made sense. Like they're already using it. So we created a bunch of different chat communities. Now it's good and bad because if you're on email now, it's not like you shut down your Slack. If you're in Gmail and the chat, you can just have stuff popping up, but it's really easy. So our community is on Circle. We're moving from Kajabi, which is where our community and our courses, and like our vault has thousands of items. So it's big over the years. And then we just moved CRMs. Again, we just moved to Go High Level, but we build a lot with Follow Up Boss with our clientele, but we're on a different CRM. Yeah.
And it's called Go High Level?
It's called Go High Level. It's what a lot of coaching companies use it. We were on Infusionsoft and we were on HubSpot. Those are too complicated for real estate teams. Like I would never recommend it. I know Mark Ferris is on Salesforce, but they also have somebody full time to like work with their Salesforce. Like these are big machines, right? Follow Up Boss or, Bold Trail, like they're built for real estate.
Right.
Yeah.
But Go High Level isn't something you're going to be training your teams to use, or?
I'm torn. Like I'm torn because I could create a fully like KBI labeled Go High Level that's pre-built out. But because of the tech partners we have and the level of automation we're able to do with Follow Up Boss and the data we're getting out of it right now, I'd have to have a really good reason, like maybe for solo agents, because moving CRMs, it's a big chore. It's not fun and you lose data and stuff doesn't match. It's just, it's a distraction, unless you really need to. So usually when people are building, we'll get them on the right one, knowing they want to go to a team. If they don't want to go, whatever. There's lots of great CRMs for individual agents.
Yeah. So I wanted to talk to you about leadership because obviously you're a great leader, and for me as a leader, there are things that I struggle with, like certain traits I have that make leadership great and also make it challenging for me. Have you had to go through that, or?
Yes. Oh my gosh. I'm like, you want to have like, forget about Tony Robbins. Like you want to have, which I still like, but you want to have the big awakenings as a person. You become a business owner. Like that's the real deal. Like you're fully exposed, you're vulnerable, you're trying to help people, and everyone has their traits. Like a lot of our community tend to be overgivers. And you would think that's good, right? You're like giver's method, being a giving leader, but you can overgive is just as toxic as under giving, right? And it can really cause a lack of appreciation. It can cause, expectations and it can go downhill really, really fast. So I think, over the years, honestly, I was constantly trying to add tools to my tool belt so that I could be ahead to help my clients. But it was like, that initiation, I had to go through it first. And we still look at that. Like just last week, I had to make a call with the team. I'd been hemming and hawing. I didn't really want to make the call. And then I looked in the mirror. I was like, it's called a feedback loop, right? It's like I have people who are resisting calls they need to make. And as a community leader, the feedback loop is broken if I'm not in integrity of doing the same thing. So I'm always really conscious of that. But it's hard. Like recently, it's interesting. Like I went through all of this cognitive testing just with my kids, and I think probably hormones and my age. I was like, I just whatever. And they initially came back and they're like, "You're gifted. We think you're left-handed." I'm like, "Great, okay, whatever." I've always been right-handed. And then
wild.
Right? My dad was left-handed, but I never really thought about it. And it's funny because somebody had said to me, "You notice you put your hand up to catch something when I threw it to you with your left hand." I was like, "That's so weird." So then they came back and they continued testing, and they basically are like, "You are all the neurodivergence. Like you are 100% neurodivergent," which people would meet me like, I would have never thought it. Like, I'm really structured, I'm really focused, but it helped me learn a lot because leaders, I've always believed, learn to know yourself, then you can adapt to know others, and then you partner with greatness.
Okay.
And if the more I see myself, the more I understand how I've led, right? And how sometimes, if you think in a very interconnected way, which I do, like I'm highly creative, my brain's really fast, I can't speak as quick as I think. And some people around me really get that, but some people do not. And I'm a super transparent leader, which again, some people, it takes them off guard. Like they're like, "Is she hiding?" So it's like, no, like I'm open book. So I think, leadership can be tricky for sure because of understanding how my brain works. I'm also very like, be honest, by the book, like this is how, so anything like that is hard for me as a leader. I struggle when people aren't like walking the walk. That's hard for me.
And it's just an evolution. I think as we change, our leadership style probably has to change a bit, right? And
for
circumstance changes, we're adapting. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Like people go through personal realizations and they're like, "Oh my gosh, it's the same in my business." We're like, "Well, of course it is." Right? Like we do life how we do life.
Yeah.
So I think honestly, like running a business or having a team, like it allows you to expand so much and learn yourself, but we're all responsible. Like I have weak spots, I have strong spots. So I say to people, I have coaches, I have advisors because I'm responsible to the business and to my team, and my weak spots could hurt things. Like, let's just be honest, right?
Yeah. You have coaches, you said.
Yeah, like over the years, I've had lots of coaches, but I always have at least like advisors and mentors, but typically, coaches. Yeah.
And you mentioned creativity, and this was something I realized a few years into this role that I'm in. I've never considered myself a creative person, but this has taught me that I am. Like I'm always thinking about new ways of doing things, and it's very exciting and invigorating, and that is a part of leadership. Yeah. But I do find you can kind of, I wouldn't say I'm burnt out, but you can get to the point where you haven't looked after yourself enough to allow those creative juices to flow and to be inspired, right? Like, do you find that happens to you, or do you protect that? How do you protect that?
I work on it. Like this year, we've been talking a lot about capacity versus caliber and cadence. And I brought it out a lot more this year specifically, because if your capacity is strained, your cadence, it's like a triangle. So if your capacity is the root of everything is strained, your capacity and cadence are going to come in, right? Which means we're not developing new systems. We're not, like you said, creating new things. Like we're not going out there and saying, how do I refine these things in my listing
clearly,
press?
Right?
We're not seeing opportunities because we're overwhelmed. So it's like, how do you help leaders, particularly this year, get into higher capacity? And that's a piece of it. If we're overbooked or we're so overextended, that part of our brain literally doesn't work. It's like you want to be in between overwhelmed and boredom, which means you're being challenged, you're engaged, but you're not overwhelmed, you're not too bored. That's where our brains really go, oh, okay.
And that's hard for people, right?
Yeah,
like
it's hard.
For high producers or, really motivated people, I think it's hard to find a balance because you just want to do it all.
Yeah, and it's hard because you have teams and all of a sudden the teams need you. So I think I agree with a lot of entrepreneurs like, hey, once a week, like book a day. And I do this, but sometimes I cheat on it. But I book a day, which is just, it's not that I'm not working, it's thinking work or creative work. Like I can go where I'm drawn, right? I'm like, oh, I'm in this project, I'm enjoying it. I can just do it. So sometimes the business needs me a little bit. So I'll book like Friday morning a little bit, but I'll try to keep it off because I find when I have that breathing space. But I think it's also why I do the off seasons. I was sharing with you coming in, like it took me 10 years to be able to be out of the business 4 to 6 weeks twice a year. It took me 10 years. So people hear and they're like, oh, you just do that. I'm like, no. It took like conscious choices for 10 years to say, what does the business need to look like for this to be possible? Amazing. But it allows me to, the first time I did it, I was really scared. I was like, your business is going to crash.
It's a scary feeling for me.
Yeah. I was like, everything's going to go, and then I came back and I was like, way more creative. I wrote new keynotes. I think it was the time I was writing my books. Like I got so much more done. And then I got kind of addicted to like having these breaks and creating these big projects, so which I still love, but sometimes it's too much, you know, first, like you have to know your personality. Even now I find I'm changing. I'm like, maybe it like be in a little more on a stable routine and then go out a little bit more, like have it a little bit more streamlined. But I'd say like 5 years ago, I loved being totally out, totally on. Didn't bother me at all.
And when you say 4 to 5 weeks away, is that off, like business is turned off?
No, the business is running. I'm turned off.
Not your business, but you.
Yeah, I'm turned off.
You're not.
Yeah.
Okay.
And sometimes it's great because like we're somewhere with no signal, right? Like when we were hiking Kilimanjaro, like no one's talking to me, you know, like I'm gone, or I'm on the Camino. Like I check in the odd time, but no, we're gone.
And what does that do for you when you come back? Like
there's a little adjustment at first when I come back where I'm kind of like, oh, so I ease my way in.
Even a week, it make you feel like you need to
adjust back in. But typically I make changes. Like I come back in and I realize what I was allowing myself to get stuck in before, and I talk to the team about it. But when you know you're going to be away, like we have a client in Halifax right now, but anyway, she's going to be going away, I think next year for 10 months. And when she first told me this, and this, I'm not telling people not to work, like she has a very successful business and she's been in it for a long, long time. Right. So when she told me this, I was so excited because she's CEO now. She's moved back from selling. That was like a 6-year forecasting process. Like we broke it down the first 5 and then it's just continued. And she sold a portion of her business to her top producer. I should give them credit. Stacey Falcon. She's an amazing leader.
Yeah, I saw her.
You met her. Yeah, she's amazing. So when she said she's going for 10 months, I was so excited because when you make a goal like that, you will now put all the things in place that the business needed to be stronger anyway, because you have to. But when you're just in it, you don't, because
you have
you're
all
in
this
it.
time to do it. And
but she's built her way there. Like she, like people sometimes hear that and they're like, oh, I'm just going to go next year. I mean, we have had teams say, as of next year, this leader's taking that year off, but they consciously took a cost of sale loss to do it. They knew it was going to happen and they tried to mitigate it, but you know, it was strategic.
Yeah. Are you rigid with a schedule, like a routine with daily habits, monthly habits to keep you, feeling like you're on top of your game?
I think for a long time I was like, for a long time, you know, I did the 6 a.m. CrossFit. I did 6 a.m. yoga. Yeah. I was a devoted fair weather runner, right? Like before I hurt my knee. And then I used to try in the winter and I was like, no, over this. But I don't know. Like I find in the last couple of years, like we had some major changes in the business. Like I think I've calmed a bit. Like I don't know if it's my air of life. And I think there's something in me that almost feels like it broke to some of it. It was like I did do that. It was good for me then, but it doesn't feel good anymore. Yeah. Now. Yeah. You know? And I don't feel bad for it. Like I'm still very productive. I just do it different.
Yeah. I would agree. I think we just continue to evolve. Like I used to be 5 a.m. every morning and getting up and doing the workout and probably working before I go to work. And I mean, that still happens, but I find the stress of trying to get up at 5 a.m. every morning, if you haven't slept well, you need to sleep and you just evolve. So,
and if you work at night, like I find sometimes I'm in a like midday to night workflow and it works, and then I'll flip
the kids
back.
Are grown, and I don't know if
that's probably part of it. The kids are out of the house now, so it's not as
you can shift.
Yeah.
Yeah. So speaking of kids, your daughter Ella is here in Peterborough. Yeah.
She's at Trent.
Going to Trent. That's awesome. Yeah. And you have a history here with your nanny here, you said?
Yeah. Well, I lived here as a child, but only until the end of grade 3, I want to say. Yeah. But both sides of the family are from here. So my grandfather, my grandma, my nanny. My grandmother always used to joke because she said, I was born in Peterborough, I'm going to die in Peterborough. And I was like, Grandma, is it because they built a house on the river in Campbellford? But she didn't love it as much. Like, I'm coming back into town.
Yeah. Yeah. So does this feel a bit like home to you? Like, I know you've been gone for a long time, but...
Yeah, still, like, there's roots here that are really nice for me. You know, as a kid, my nanny was on Weller. Like, there was a lot more freedom, right? I could just walk the dog and be out for hours just thinking and exploring and making up, stories. Probably that's how I do talks now, and I really loved it. And I think, you know, my grandfather, I shared when I was at the Ascend event, like way back, he was a platoon chief in Peterborough. My family were very much in the fire department. So he had built the house in Campbellford. He had built them a house in Peterborough. And I shared it was interesting the mentalities we come from, you know, because he was such a hard worker, like came on a train from Brandon, Manitoba in the Depression. And later on when they said, oh, you were so talented, you know, you built 2 houses. And he's like, what do you mean talented? He's like, we had no money. Like he really said, like he took the job in the fire department for fear of being hungry again. And it was interesting because I take so much from him for work ethic, you know,
sure.
But then I also am so aware of that mentality because sometimes as a single mom, I could be like that, like very careful with money. Like I can budget like a boss, right? Like you need to go to Disneyland on the cheap. I can find a way to do it. But then you start to, over time as an entrepreneur, realize like those identities can also really hold you back. You know, so I think it's interesting to look back on what stories have I been brought up with and which pieces do I want to bring with me and bring to my kids and which pieces I was like, thank goodness they did that then. So we can do this now.
Yeah. Much more difficult time to live.
Yeah, so much, you know?
Yeah, we're lucky in a lot of ways. And somehow not. I mean, this whole AI thing, it's a blessing and a curse and the social media and all of that. But I mean...
When they think people who are used to keeping up with technology, like your brain is just like even us with the AI, right? Because we can do so much that we've always wanted to do so much quicker. But if you're overwhelmed, it's just like anything else where you're not getting ahead. So it's like, what do we need to use at the right time? So we're not up at night going like, I know so many entrepreneurs, like I'm so behind with AI. I feel like I'm going to go out of business.
Right.
And that's not helping them.
No.
Right.
It's just adding more stress.
Yeah.
Can you give me some examples of how you use AI? I mean,
oh my gosh, we're working on it. So we use it a lot with our campaigns, like our marketing, we use it a lot, but
your marketing's really good. Those campaigns makes you stop and read.
Yeah, it's helpful, but we're trying to move over to Claude because we are moving over to Claude, but because we're redoing all our tech platforms right now, literally, we just moved our CRM. We're just moving our vault in our community all to Circle over the last year. And now we're trying to integrate with Notion and Claude to GHL, which is Go High Level. So we're being very careful because AI is moving really, really quickly, but we need to make sure everything we build works for the business. So we're like, you can't build 8 things at once. You can, but it's not cohesive. Like people don't know how to use it. So we're bringing in expert support and kind of going, okay,
that's good.
Like what do we need as a base? Once we have our base really strong, great. We'll add. But like it's a lot to move an entire team onto a new platform. And I think a lot of team members are really reluctant with AI because they think you're trying to replace them. And we've taken the mentality that I know a lot of people I respect have taken, like, listen, you're more exposed if you don't lean into AI. If you're leaning into it and we're getting ahead, we're good. If you're not willing to use it, that's not going to be a possibility for us. Like not in my line of business.
And are you tech strong, or do you have
I mean, in some
someone on your
ways,
team that takes that lead, or?
It's a mix. Like, I think if I had all of the time, I like systems. Like, if I had the time, I don't mind. Like, to be in a room all day building stuff, like, I have that part of my brain, but that's not what the business needs from me. Like, it's not our best use of time. So we bring in consultants, and then we have Carrie Fillier in ops, who's really strong at, like, building out Circle, building out our platforms.
Right.
But, like, it's like a real estate team. You know, you move your CRM, you have... Like, you know, our database is over 100,000 people. Like, it's massive moving, and then a vault with thousands of items, and you're updating. It's just keeping track of all of it. It's a big project.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So we were talking about the market before we came in here, and I know you coach clients from all over North America. Is it outside North America at all?
We've done talks in Europe and Australia. So I've been out, which is really, really fun. But Australia's market's a little bit different. So I think they bring in more for leadership talks.
Nice.
And yeah, Europe too, because their market's like the way it's not the same with MLS or buyer reps. So the majority is North America. Yeah.
So for this market right now, what are your main messages to teams, teams and agents as far as you need to be doing this right now, or is it different than what you've always been saying, or what's the advice?
Is it different? It's not different than what we've always been saying. It's more exposed to be real, right? So we're
I told you.
Yeah, but I can't say that, but it kind of is that, you know, like I remember being a few years ago now at FubCon, you know, when the market was, Follow Up Boss had a event, conference, but people were like, yeah, the market was so just, you know, our cups overfloweth, right? So they're like, we don't need to do this. There's business here, business everywhere. Like, we used to track all that. And then the market has shifted a bit. And a year later, they're like, yeah, if we had still been tracking what we used to, we would be even stronger now. We've had to go back to the foundation. And it's always that way, right? The market leans you out, you get strong, you tighten things up, and you go back to what really works and who's really showing up and who has the right mentality. And then the market gets a bit more generous, and we kind of have more to flow to people who aren't necessarily self-starters. So I think this last year and this year have been hard because I don't think people mentally are over COVID yet, all of the changes, AI, the economy, the politics, like the uncertainty in the world globally, and it's heavy for people, and you don't know how you're going to respond to that until you're in it. And again, when people's capacity is limited, even as adults, you know, it's more emotional outbreaks, it's more being mad at people, it's pushback, it's like, oh, I don't need to track, or I don't need to show up. And that's really hard on the individual doing it because they're not doing what's going to drive them forward. But it's unbelievably hard on leadership. Because they're trying to support their people, they're trying to show up. And when somebody's being their own worst enemy, you can't just say that. You need to kind of help them come out of it. Like, you can tell somebody, make all your calls, if their mentality is, it's an awful market and I'm not going to be able to do anything other than what flows to me, saying make calls isn't going to get in their head, right? Like, it's more talking about, well, when were you successful? What did you do then? Like, there's a lot of nurturing, and not everyone has the capacity even to do that right now. So we're seeing a lot of changes, and there's a lot of hard-earned leadership lessons happening right now that I think will really help the next decade of leaders, like in Canada, who are team leaders, because when you're in such a high market, you don't necessarily have to look at your low margins, right? Whereas now you do. And it's like, hey, we've got people here and they're not showing up. And am I profitable doing it the way I'm trying to do it? And am I paying people to be in the business? And these are harder management skill sets to learn, but once you lock them in, you typically hold them.
Yeah, I think it's going to make us all stronger, right?
For sure.
Yeah. And I did want to ask you this. This is something that I'm sure you see as well. Just the discouragement. It's kind of similar to what you're saying, but every year the slow period comes, or maybe it's a slower period the last few years, say that December to February, and even our best producing agents feel beat up. You know, and they can't shake that, like decades of that feeling. Do you have any tips for that person?
Well, I think what you focus on expands. Like, process-driven agents always do better. So I'd say if you're focusing on the process, like I'm still making the calls, I'm still doing the touch bases, I'm still doing, you know, the pop buys or the early buyer or seller appointments. Track all of that, because our people who are tracking that in the slow seasons are people who rebound and always do phenomenally well. The people who don't track it, they panic more because they're like, I don't have the deal on the deal board. It's like, but focusing on the deal board is never what you got the deals on the deal board.
We were just talking about this yesterday.
Yeah, the rebound's really important, and that's a mentality thing. Again, you know, when you're talking to agents, like, but the market's down, sales volume's down. Well, yeah, sure it is. So who's going to cultivate the sales that are there? The people who are actually working the process and reaching out. And if you're internally in a place of uncertainty, which, hey, who hasn't been the odd day in the last couple of years, like everybody, but if you're consistently in that, it's very hard to reach out to people and transfer confidence in a way that other people take action if you're not able to find that place internally before the external world talks to you. So there's a lot of that. Like, what value are you bringing? Like, how are you helping people to see their opportunities in a consultant's fashion? Because of pushy sales, like in an uncertain market, it's not going to go well.
And a lot of that is just mindset too, right?
Yeah.
And how do you work on that if you're feeling like low? And
yeah, the number one is clarity and confidence. Like, whether you're a team leader trying to expand, or you're a newer agent, or you're, you know, just want to level up your business, like having clarity and confidence on where you're at now, what got you there, what does that look like, where you want to go, and the realization that there's going to be some different choices that are going to feel a little bit off. But the minute they get to a higher level of clarity and confidence, they go, okay, I see where I want to go. I have a plan. I see the performance metrics. I see what it all, like with ours, that's our first pillar. So I see what that looks like. Now they look, and it's so different. It's like, oh my gosh, but I don't have this in my toolbox, and I don't have this, and I don't have a buyer consultation that does that. I don't even know how to meet with people earlier, like whatever. It could be anything. And all of a sudden they're trying to fill those gaps instead of somebody saying like, here, go get a buyer push. It's a pull.
Yeah.
And I find when we get there, like that's also that internal leadership of I'm not waiting for the world to push me or tell me. I'm deciding what I want to go out there and create.
If you can get to that point where you're clear on what you need to do, take control, focus on the process, then you kind of can pull yourself out of a negative mindset because you're focusing on
where you're going.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I find for most people it works well, but everybody falls back sometimes.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, this has been so helpful. Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, I appreciate your time. And I know a lot of our agents are going to be looking forward to hearing your tips. And I appreciate your insight. Thank you so much.
When you have great agents, I remember from the event, like you can always tell a good culture, and they certainly were. So thank you.
Yeah, same to you. Thank you so much.